Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers report, we're going to preview this Niners-Cardinals game. This is a huge matchup inside the NFC West. It is the home opener for San Francisco at Levi Stadium, the site of Super Bowl 60. Kickoff is set for 4:25 p.m. Eastern, 1:25 p.m. on the West Coast out there in Santa Clara. And the 49ers going into this game as of right now, 1.5-point favorites with the over-under set at 43.5. This is the best preview that you'll find on YouTube for this game. Analysis, matchups to watch, keys to the game, injury news, and a whole lot more. So continue to hang out here with me. But I do want to begin here. Get those predictions in. Who you got? I'll give you my prediction at the end of the show. Type ARI for the Cardinals, SF for the 49ers. And with that, let's get this preview underway. All right, let's do it. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers report. My name is Chase Sr. As always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And I can't wait to dive into this one because this is a really big matchup inside this division between these two rivals inside the NFC West, the 49ers and the Cardinals. Two teams also that are undefeated to start the 2025 campaign as they're 2-0 going into Sunday. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join us. First of all, when you hit that sub button, we give you year-round and daily coverage of the Niners, but also we go live for every single Niners game, and we're running it back with another watch party. We'll see you on Sunday. Also, thanks to all of the real ones for your continued support. Last night, we surpassed 170,000 subscribers. Speaking of the NFC West and why this game is so big, and really all of the divisional games for San Francisco in 2025, I think are going to be closely contested, and they're going to have a lot of implications because I think this division is tight, and I think this division is wide open. It wouldn't surprise me if any team listed here to my right ends up winning the NFC West crown here in 2025 because, frankly, I think all of these teams are very solid in their own respective ways. San Francisco 2-0, Cardinals 2-0, Rams 2-0, and the Seahawks getting on the board with a win over Pittsburgh over the weekend. They are now 1-1. Every team in the NFC West in Week 2 came out of Week 2 with a victory. And the Niners, bad taste from 2024 when they think about the Arizona Cardinals, right? Because San Francisco surprisingly swept in the season series against Arizona last year. Up until this point, going into Week 3, here's what the Cardinals have done so far. A Week 1 win on the road against the New Orleans Saints, 20-13. Like the Niners win over the Saints, that game came down to the wire at the Superdome in New Orleans. Week 2, it was the Cardinals' home opener, and they beat the Carolina Panthers 27-22. They went up big, then Carolina rallied, nearly came back to steal that game, but Arizona able to close that game out. And a constant for the Cardinals this year, and something that I'm going to continue to kind of monitor as the season progresses, I really like their defensive line talent, their defensive line depth with this scheme led by Jonathan Gannon, who is the head coach of Arizona, of course. He is a defensive-minded and oriented head coach. Used to be the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to run a little bit of that 3-4 hybrid front, and he has this team playing really well in the trenches. And this is something that the Cardinals have been building over the last few years, as it is now Gannon's third year in the desert. Kyler Murray, through the first two games, has been very accurate, hovering around 70% completion percentage, and the two Treys on offense, Trey McBride, the tight end, Trey Benson, the young running back, they have been balling. The pass game goes through McBride, second to George Kittle, an average annual value for highest paid tight ends in the NFL. And then Benson, a player who the Cardinals have really been a fan of, he's starting to come into his own, and they have a good running back combo in that backfield with Kyler Murray, with James Conner also getting a bulk share of the carries as well. And in a loaded NFC West, I do think this is going to be one of the more competitive divisions in football in 2025. The Cardinals are always looked at as the little brother, the redheaded stepchild. I have nothing against gingers or redheads, but nobody seems to take the Cardinals seriously year in and year out because over the course of franchise history, they haven't had a lot of success, right? But against the 49ers recently, they have. They've been a feisty team. They've been a team with Cliff Kingsbury and with Jonathan Gannon. They've started seasons well, and then they've kind of tailed off late, but they've been in these playoff hunts late in the year. And this year in 2025, they're a quality ball club. And this season, it is a big year for Kyler Murray and Jonathan Gannon. Obviously, they're kind of tied together because Kyler is the quarterback, Gannon the head coach. But if Kyler doesn't play well this year, wouldn't surprise me if the Cardinals, after 2025, try to bring in and find another franchise quarterback. I think Gannon has a little bit of a longer leash, but if the Cardinals fall apart, maybe they try to find a new head coach as well with their GM, Monty Ozenford, who is a big Jonathan Gannon fan, and they do have a lot of familiarity and a history together. Something to be aware of with Arizona. I talked about how they struggle to close out season strong, whether it be under Cliff Kingsbury, whose NFL offense I don't really like, or Jonathan Gannon, who's a defensive guy as compared to Kingsbury being an offensive guy, is that in the first 2 games of the year, there has been a pattern with Arizona. The Cardinals in week 1 had to hold on until the final snap to beat the Saints. Spencer Rattler drove New Orleans down the field, and frankly, I think New Orleans should have tied that game up. They lost by 7, but Rattler threw a dime ball in the end zone, and it was dropped. Arizona escapes with the victory. Then in week 2, they take this big lead over Carolina. The Panthers didn't want to fall into that dreaded 0-2 hole, and so the Panthers rally back, and they nearly mounted a pretty epic comeback before that Cardinals defense able to close the door shut. They forced a couple of giveaways and forced Bryce Young into some mistakes on Sunday at home. And so the Niners have done a good job of closing games. The Cardinals have not. And if this game is close, that is something to remember and be cognizant of. Also with Arizona's offense, this is a Kyler problem because he's shorter and doesn't always see the field well. This is an offensive coordinator problem. Cardinals fans don't love their OC. It's a scheme issue, but there has been a lack of wide receiver usage to start the year for Arizona. When they pass it, the offense is going through Trey McBride, and he's a stellar player, but they drafted Marvin Harrison in the 2024 draft. He's been slow to get his career going. Outside of him, they have players like Greg Dortch, who hasn't been used a lot so far this year. And so we'll see if they really try to get the pass game going to the wideouts to see if they can press and try to test this Niners secondary. Of course, a big question for San Francisco going into this game: will Brock Purdy play quarterback and start? Will it be the Mac Jones show again? Brock Purdy suffered that turf toe injury against the Seattle Seahawks, according to a variety of reports. It's a 2 to 5 week injury. He missed the New Orleans game. That's 1 week. And so he might come back for this week. I would say the chances of that are very slim, or his absence could be extended for this game and beyond. Here's the latest from Albert Breer, NFL insider for Sports Illustrated. I was told he will be out 2 to 3 weeks. Of note, Ian Rappaport's timeline was 2 to 5. Maybe it's one of those deals where he gets back out there on the practice field and does light work at the end of this week. But my sense is the 49ers want to sit him at least 2 games and maybe a third. And of course, if Brock Purdy cannot play, Mac Jones will get his 2nd consecutive start. San Francisco also has to be very careful about managing Purdy's turf toe injury. And San Francisco kind of dodged a bullet. Joe Burrow has turf toe, but with the severity of it, he could be out for the rest of the year, has to undergo surgery. Whereas for Purdy, best case scenario, more of a minor turf toe injury, which could still keep him out for a couple of games. I was so impressed with how Mac Jones played against the Saints. It was really the best game that I've seen him play in his NFL career. Kyle Shanahan elevated him with the scheme and with his play calling and play designs. Mac Jones was awesome on 3rd downs. I really liked the ball distribution as he found 8 different players with a pass and a reception on Sunday. 26 of 39, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a rating of 113.1 in that spot. On the road, backup quarterback, about as good as he could have played given the circumstances. And on 3rd down, Mac Jones was surgical, especially in that 2-minute fast-paced drive right before halftime in which Mac went 7 of 9, converted a couple of big third downs, and led the Niners right down the field for a huge touchdown drive. But on third down throughout the game, Mac Jones really excelled. Big reason for that, able to throw with touch, timing, accuracy, being able to layer throws and process what the defense was doing. Most importantly, the offensive line held up in front of him, and Mac on third down, 7 of 12, a $121. All 3 of his touchdowns through the air came on third down, and he had a passer rating of 132.2. Another reason why he played about as good as you could have asked for. And what I really like about what Mac did and how Kyle Shanahan helped him and how his other supporting players around him assisted him, the offensive line needed to hold up against the Saints, and it did. The protection, for the most part, was really good. The strip sack on Mac Jones, I'm not putting that on Colton McKivitz. That's on Mac. He held onto the ball way too long. I also liked how Kyle Shanahan trusted Mac with this play calling. Mac Jones threw the ball 23 times in the first half. You don't see that a lot with Brock Purdy. I'm not alluding to the fact that Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust Brock Purdy, but he trusted Mac Jones, and it was good to see. That well-rounded ball distribution, what I like about Mac Jones and why I thought it was a good fit for him coming to the Niners, he can run this offense by playing point guard. I've used that term a lot. Get the ball out on time, early, fast, accurately to playmakers. Layer throws in there as well so that you can hit your receivers at multiple levels and areas of the field. And so we saw all of that on Sunday. He does what Brock Purdy does very well, layers those balls with beautiful touch, probably has a stronger arm and a better long ball than Brock Purdy as far as being able to throw it deeper. And then that third down execution was big time. Mac's performance against the Saints was a great example of why Kyle Shanahan is elite, one of the top head coaches in the NFL, and one of the most respected offensive minds in the league. Because these quarterback whisperers are able to elevate and maximize quarterbacks of all types of styles and quarterbacks of all types of different skill sets. Think about the quarterbacks who Kyle Shanahan has been able to maximize and have play well for him as a head coach when he's been calling plays. C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullen put up some crazy numbers under Kyle Shanahan. And so Kyle Shanahan's been able to maximize the likes of C.J. Beathard, Nick Mullins, Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy was top 5 in MVP voting in 2023. I know Sam Darnold didn't play a lot for the Niners, but he credits his time with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy for being able to revive his career, where he went to Minnesota, put up huge numbers, and then he got a bag from the Seattle Seahawks. And then on Sunday, you saw what Shanahan did with Mac Jones. That is high-level coaching right there, and it was on display on Sunday, and it's been on display with Kyle Shanahan running the show. A look back to what happened in Week 5 last year between the Niners and the Cardinals. Let's get to that. I'm not going to get to the Week 18 matchup because you got to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, Joshua Dobbs played. The Niners had mailed in their season, and the Cardinals didn't have anything to play for. Nick Sorensen was a dead duck at the defensive coordinator spot, and San Francisco's defense was embarrassingly bad in the regular season finale. But when these two teams were full strength, they played in Week 5 last year, and the Cardinals stunned the Niners with a 24-23 victory. San Francisco scored 23 points in the first half. They were shut out and blanked after halftime. San Francisco, in the process, because of that, blew a 23-10 lead, and they spoiled a game in which they scored 23 first-half points. You had Deommodore Lenoir block a field goal and return it for a touchdown. And then late after halftime, when the offense couldn't do anything, the defense collapsed. And then also late, San Francisco had to go for it a lot on fourth downs because Jake Moody got hurt. He was never the same, and really, that was the beginning to the end of his Niners career. The 49ers defense last year collapsed, fell apart, and choked in games. There were personnel issues, there were depth issues, there were scheme breakdowns, but coaching malpractice was a problem under Nick Sorensen. Well, what have we seen to start 2025? Under Robert Saleh, who's a huge upgrade over Sorensen. This defense, instead of collapsing late in ball games, has been able to close games out. The Nick Bosa pressure and fumble forced in week 1. Bosa did it again in week 2, and then Bryce able to polish that game off with the strip sack of Spencer Rattler with an unbelievably fast get off. A huge key to winning this game, speaking of Robert Saleh and his defense, will be containing Kyler Murray. The 49ers' struggles against mobile quarterbacks have been well documented over the last few years. This is where running the wide 9 really can hurt San Francisco because their defensive linemen are spread out. It leads to wide open running lanes for the quarterback, and the vision is a little bit easier for the quarterback to take off and run if nothing is open downfield. When you're also running that wide 9, you get upfield so quickly, leaving that middle area of the field vacant, and sometimes San Francisco doesn't have disciplined pass rush lanes. Overall, from 2022 to 2024, the Niners have allowed the 12th most rushing yards per game to quarterbacks, about 28.5, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. That is often due to schematic gaps in containing the edge rather than raw talent deficits. And so why had the 49ers struggled so much against mobile quarterbacks? When you're running this wide 9, the thought process is to be on the attack. It's to be aggressive and to get after the quarterback. But with that aggression, it can sometimes burn you because you get upfield so quickly, and then quarterbacks are able to step up when the lanes are wider as compared to a regular 4-3 or a 3-4. They can take off and run, but pass rush lane discipline is going to be so crucial in this game for San Francisco. Let's get to some injury news as well. Brock Purdy dealing with the turf toe. Kyle Juszczyk suffered a concussion early in the game against New Orleans. One of the Niners special teams aces, Saran Neal, also suffered a concussion. Ben Barch is going to be out for a while due to an ankle, so Connor Colby will start at left guard. And then Jawan Jennings, the Niners will monitor his status throughout the week. Ankle, he's day-to-day. I didn't put George Kittle on here because he's on IR, and he's out at least the next 3 games after he missed that Saints game. On the Cardinals injury front, Arizona, in that win against Carolina, lost 3 cornerbacks in week 2. Max Melton, a player who I really like coming out of college. Will Johnson, who fell to the second round out of Michigan. He was looked at as one of the top corners in the 2025 class, but because of injuries, he fell. But the Cardinals love him, and he's been balling. And then Garrett Williams also got hurt. Along the defensive line in that game against Carolina, LJ Collier left the game with a knee injury. And then prior to the year, defensive tackle Walter Nolan, who Arizona drafted in the first round out of Ole Miss. I really liked him in the pre-draft for San Francisco. He was placed on PUP, and then Bilal Nichols started the year on PUP as well. We're only getting started for our Niners-Cardinals Week 3 preview. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, my keys to the game, matchups to watch out for San Francisco to beat Arizona and stay undefeated in their home opener at Levi Stadium, the site of Super Bowl 60. Before we do that, today's 49ers Report brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Millions of users are already signed up. Become a member. It's the #1 fantasy sports app. You can win big, up to 2,000 times your money. It's easy and exciting daily fantasy. Download the app, create an account, use the code CLNS. And when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 back in lineups. Prize Picks, very simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. What I also really like, how their withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure, and how Prize Picks offers everything from Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Looking ahead to Niners-Cardinals. Let's rock with Christian McCaffrey more than 36.5 receiving yards. He's been so well-rounded to start the year with all-purpose yards. Kyler Murray, less than 220.5 passing yards. And then the special this week, Patrick Mahomes, more than a half passing yard. New users, play $5, get $50 instantly in lineups. Real money sports action made easy. Claim your $50 now. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. It is good to be right. All right, to the back half of the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Thanks for hanging out here with me. What a matchup we have in Week 3. San Francisco 49ers playing host to the Arizona Cardinals, a huge game inside the NFC West. And here's what the Niners have to do to beat Arizona, in addition to matchups to look out for. You look at the NFC West standings going into Sunday. The Niners are 2-0. The Cardinals are 2-0. The Rams are 2-0, and the Seahawks are 1-1. By season's end, I really have no idea who's going to win this division, and we're going to see some fireworks in the NFC West all year because I think this division is very competitive, and there are some high-level teams, and with that, a lot of these games inside the division are going to be close. With that, let's flip the page to my keys to the game. I have 5 of them for all of you, and when you watch this show, I want you to become a more informed Niner fan. And so hopefully we can do that with our analysis and our breakdowns here. Key to the game number 1, San Francisco has to contain quarterback Kyler Murray. San Francisco, over the last few years, as they've run this wide 9, they have really struggled against mobile quarterbacks who have been able to burn the Niners defense with their feet and with their legs. In week 4 last year, week 5 last year, October 5th, 2024, the 49ers blew a 23-10 lead against Arizona. They scored all of those points in the first half. They got blanked after halftime, and they were falling apart at the seams. Offense, defense, and on special teams. And the Cardinals were able to get on the board early and strike first, but the game's first touchdown thanks to a 50-yard Kyler Murray rushing touchdown. And San Francisco's angles on that play were poor, but this is all a part of a bigger problem for the 49ers when they go up against these quarterbacks who are fleet of foot. Because they run this wide 9, and this is where the wide 9 can really hurt San Francisco here. Because with their front 4 alignment, oftentimes their defensive linemen are so spread out. And their job is to pin their ears back, be aggressive, get after the quarterback, and get upfield to try to collapse the pocket. But when you do that with that wide 9 alignment against a quarterback like Kyler Murray, who is so twitchy in how he's able to run and with his footwork, even if the pocket does break down, he sees that sliver of daylight to carve through that wide 9. And then even if you're doing your job in coverage and everybody is holding up, because the pass rush gets upfield, that middle area of the field is left vacant, leading to chunk running plays for quarterbacks like Kyler Murray. So disciplined pass rush lanes going to be important. Pass rush lane integrity is going to be important in this game, and setting the edge against Kyler is something that San Francisco is going to have to do. From 2022 to 2024, the 49ers allowed the 12th most rushing yards per game, 2 quarterbacks, 28.5 per game. And it's often due to those schematic gaps. Excuse me. So you look at this, and this is kind of the game plan that I would put together. This is how the 49ers can contain Kyler Murray in week 3 on Sunday, and how they can stop the rushing attack and keep him from burning this Niners defense with his legs. You have to have those disciplined pass rush lanes. You have to set the edge and keep him contained in the pocket. Don't let him break contain. What he also really likes to do is to create plays out of structure and improvisationally, especially given his lack of height. He doesn't see the field well, especially with some bodies in front of him as the pocket gets muddied. So if he starts to feel that the pocket is breaking down or pressure is getting to him, he's going to run around to try to create plays downfield and make plays with his feet. He is a true dual threat quarterback. When this Niners pass rush gets upfield, that's fine, right? Because this is part of the Niners scheme and what makes them such a violent pass rushing team at times. But the linebacker security at that second level is going to have to be there, and San Francisco will have to tackle well. Wouldn't be surprised if Robert Saleh has a quarterback spy from time to time, but you don't want to always do that because it takes a defender away from your coverage unit. And then another way to contain Kyler Murray in the pocket and not allow him to hurt you with his feet and his legs is to run some twists and stunts so that he gets confused with what he's seeing. You clog up his vision line and you blur his vision line, but then you run those twist stunts up front, and he's not really sure where the pressure is coming from, and sometimes he can lack that processing power. Key to the game number 2, the 49ers, like they did against the Saints, have to protect Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a completely different quarterback when he's clean compared to when he's under duress. And this is a Cardinals team in 2025. I started to notice this during the preseason. They have a talented, violent, physical, and deep defensive line. And Jonathan Gannon has been able to really craft a defense that is growing, progressing, and getting better since coming to the Cardinals as head coach after he was previously the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. And what he preaches is a defense that plays fast and physical. And so if the Cardinals are able to generate a pass rush on Mac Jones, it could really throw this Niners offense out of whack and throw a wrench into their offensive plans. I showed you these numbers going into that Saints game, but they still apply, especially with what we saw against New Orleans when Mac Jones was kept clean. Mac Jones against pressure in 2024. When he was kept clean, you see how the completion percentage is so much higher, 72.1%, compared to when he's under pressure, 38.9%. When he's not blitzed, completion percentage, 69%. When he was blitzed, 56.6%. Of course, for Mac, he always has to limit the turnovers because that's been a problem throughout his career. In 2023, when he was kept clean, a similar story here, ladies and gentlemen. 71.8% completion rate, but when he was under pressure, it plummeted to 46.2%. When he was not blitzed in 2023 with the Patriots, 65.9%. When he was blitzed, 61.7%. And so there is a consistent theme there, whether Mac has played for New England or Jacksonville. Much better quarterback when he is kept clean in the pocket. And against the Saints, among the Niners' 7 highest graded players, 6 of them were offensive linemen. Really good sign for San Francisco here, and hopefully they can duplicate that performance. This is also going to be a big game coming up for the rookie 7th-round pick out of Iowa, Connor Colby, who's stepping in for Ben Bartch, who got hurt against New Orleans at left guard. Jonathan Gannon knows that. And so he's going to try to stack the box on the side of Connor Colby, come up with some defensive play calls to really confuse a rookie like that, and Colby has to hold up. I went back and watched the tape. I mean, he was really good against New Orleans, and he's a huge upgrade over Ben Bartch, who, to no one's surprise, is injured again. And against the Saints, Colby, pass blocking grade according to PFF, 73.6. He had 0 penalties, 0 sacks, no hits given up, 0 pressures on 61 snaps. The Cardinals up front, here's some players to look out for here. Darius Robinson, going into year 2, Cardinals high on him, stock is up. Baron Browning, a really good player. Mac Wilson, Akeem Davis Gaither, and then Arizona brought in Josh Sweat this offseason. He had a career year under Jonathan Gannon in 2022 when Gannon was the DC for the Eagles. Sweat had 11 sacks. He was good in 2023, excellent in 2024. A big reason why the Eagles won that Super Bowl. The Cardinals needed to get better at that pass rushing spot, which is why they gave Josh Sweat $19 million. And so far, so good for him. He had a big strip sack of Bryce Young in that game in week 2. Key to the game number 3 for the Niners. Take away tight end Trey McBride. The entire Cardinals passing offense goes through McBride. He's one of the best tight ends in the NFL, probably a top 5 guy in that realm of George Kittle. Brock Bowers has really good size at 6'4", 246. He moves very well. What's interesting about McBride, not the best red zone option throughout his career. He hasn't scored a lot of touchdowns, but Kyler Murray loves throwing him the rock. Whether it's down the seam, down the numbers, into the flat, he can pick up yards after the catch. He is a matchup nightmare for linebackers and smaller nickel corners. So far this season, 12 catches for $139. Kyler Murray's going to look his way on that first read almost every single time. And what's odd about Arizona's offense so far this year is the lack of wide receiver involvement. And up until this point, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been somewhat of a disappointment with what he did at Ohio State, how early the Cardinals drafted him, and what other rookies in that receiver class from 2024 are doing so far. Malik Neighbors is a top 5, top 10 wideout. Brian Thomas is an absolute stud. Marvin Harrison Jr., for whatever reason, hasn't been able to find his rhythm, groove, or confidence with Arizona, and that connection between Kyler and him hasn't been on point. So far through 2 games, only 7 catches for 98 yards. Along a 45, that's good. That's an explosive, but the production somewhat limited. Michael Wilson is the Cardinals' second leading wideout. He only has 2 catches for 16 yards in 2 games. Good size, though, 6'2", 213. And then Greg Dortch, he's played very well against the Niners. He's a smaller player who's shiftier, who the Cardinals are sometimes going to try to get involved with bubble screens and some gadget plays. 5'7", 175, but home run playmaking ability through 2 games, he only has 2 catches for 9 yards. And so matching up against McBride going to be a big matchup for Fred Warner, D. Winters, and I imagine at times Upton Stout, the rookie slot corner, will be one-on-one with Trey McBride too, and he's going to have to hold up. Key to the game number 4, stop this Cardinals rushing attack. The pass game really hasn't been explosive or all that impressive. Part of that is because of the aforementioned lack of wide receiver involvement and the offense going through Trey McBride. Kyler Murray has really tried to emphasize being accurate with the ball, getting rid of the ball early, and not turning it over. And look, it's worked so far. The Cardinals are 2-0, but a staple of this Cardinals offense is their ground game. And they're going to lean on that a lot. Trey Benson is a player who I like coming out of Florida State, and the Cardinals have been waiting for him to break out. Looks as though the breakout year might be here. 11 carries for 83 yards this season. 52 of them came on 1 play. And then Mr. Steady, Mr. Reliable, the cancer survivor, unbelievable story, who is closing in, I think, on becoming the all-time leading touchdown scorer at running back for Arizona in franchise history. It's James Conner. And the 49ers have struggled against James Conner because of his physical running style. And last year, they were so bad at tackling. This year, they've gotten better, but they're going to have to tackle in space and in the trenches when things are condensed against Arizona. Conner, 6'1", 233. So he's really a bull at that running back spot. He's been a workhorse the last few years. 23 carries, 73 yards, and a touchdown this season. And then you have to remember that Kyler Murray is such a dangerous runner. Those quick feet, he can really take off in a blink. 5'10", that's generous. Kyler Murray is like 5'9" on a good day. But with him not being able to see it all that well, that's why him extending plays in the pocket with his feet and running makes him difficult to defend. He has 14 carries for 70 yards so far this year. And then lastly, what I really liked about Kyle Shanahan's game plan and play calling with Mac Jones at quarterback, he leaned into a strength of Mac Jones. And that's Mac being able to run the system, play point guard, and distribute the pill. And against the Saints, 8 different players caught a pass from Mac Jones. And while San Francisco doesn't have its juggernaut players to catch footballs right now, no George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall has been incredible. Jawan Jennings was awesome against the Saints. The Niners, I think, are better off right now with a well-rounded offensive attack. And that's helping to make up for not having some of their stars. And it makes them difficult to defend because you really do have to defend every blade of grass from sideline to sideline vertically. And then Mac Jones, with that processing ability, able to layer throws with Christian McCaffrey running the ball and catching it. You're posing as an offense so many threats to the opposing defense, and you have to do that against a team like Arizona. They're really good at all 3 levels, and Budda Baker, Calais Campbell, they're still studs. Budda Baker, obviously not as old as Calais Campbell, but he's still one of the top safeties and playmakers in the game on defense. And Calais Campbell, he's in his late 30s, so disruptive as he's on his way to the Hall of Fame. All right, predict the score. Cardinals, Niners, get those score predictions in. I think San Francisco wins this game. And I'm going to go Niners 25, Cardinals 20. I do think it is a close game because I think people are underrating the Cardinals. I think it comes down to some late game execution. The Niners have been better there the first 2 games of the year as compared to Arizona. And with overall talent and coaching, I just think San Francisco is better than Arizona and well-positioned right now. So Mac Jones gets another win. San Francisco moves to 3-0. That's my prediction. Thanks for watching the preview.